want to know. There's a lot of singing that goes on. Sometimes I don't know the songs.
I feel like most of your education was protest in church.
Oh, there it is. There's the button. That's the button. Or being told to pay attention.
Yeah.
That was the part. That was the other part. Yeah. Although, okay, one of the best things, I love this, and I bring this up with the kids all the time in church, was we had a visiting pastor. Visiting priest. I guess, again, Catholics. But I know we talk pastor all the time with you, so I slide back and forth. So visiting priest at the congregation, and he is from Africa, and he sounds like King Julian from Madagascar. He has that accent. Oh, and I want to tell you that this is what we're going to be doing. And so we're sitting there in church, and I'm not going to say which two kids, but two of them look at each other and start going, I like to move it. Very quiet. And they start going up and down a little bit, and they go, I like to move it. And then the others get in, and so I've got the four kids doing, and I'm like, I'm trying not to laugh, and I'm trying to sit there and say, pay attention, stop this, but this is freaking hilarious.
Well, Bill Thorpe may occasionally be a little disrespectful in church. He's nothing compared to the storming of a church that took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota over the weekend that included Don Lemon. Yes, that nitwit from CNN, formerly CNN. A left-wing mob stormed a Minnesota church to protest immigration and customs enforcement, the Daily Mail reporting, stopping services and leaving worshipers furious. Protesters interrupted Sunday service at City's Church in St. Paul, angrily demanding ICE out and accusing a senior leader of the church of working with the agency. One demonstrator said they were demanding justice for Renee Good, the 37-year-old Minneapolis mother fatally shot by ICE agent earlier this month. This will not stand. It cannot pretend to be a house of God while harboring someone who is commanding ICE agents to terrorize our communities. The protester was being questioned by Don Lemon, who followed the marchers as they stormed into the service. Here's Don talking to the pastor.
This is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
but there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much.
We've got even more shocking audio coming when one of the guys who goes by the name Woke Farmer confronts young women sitting in the pews. It got wildly disrespectful. They were bullying and intimidating. There's pictures circulating now of a young boy crying in his father's arms as they were shouting and disrupting this church service. Is this the future of what progressives are going to do to try to get the attention, the attention that they're seeking, going and disrupting church services? Do you agree with Don Lemon that this was constitutionally protected First Amendment activity? Or was this harassment, intimidation, and trespassing, possibly even the violation of the FACE Act, which prevents people from doing this type of activity? Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. Monday, 19 and cloudy in Denver. Had some snow on the ground up and down the Front Range in parts. Expecting a high of 43 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
When this guy ran against me, he ran a complete smear campaign against me. I ran an above-board, clean race. I did not attack anybody.
Former Aurora City Council member at large Danielle Jurinsky on with Jeff and Billy last hour. The man who defeated her in the most recent election, City Councilman Rob Andrews, he's facing charges after being pulled over on South Chambers around 9:30 Saturday night. Charges include suspicion of DUI, driving with excessive alcohol content, changing lanes when unsafe, and making a left turn from the wrong lane. He was held overnight and released Sunday on a summons. Jurinsky wants him to be held accountable.
It hasn't come out yet, but here's what I will tell you from folks that were at the party where he was at. He was being asked to stop drinking by other Democrats. He was being asked to stop drinking. He was being asked to please leave his truck and take an Uber. So when this comes out, when his BAC comes out, I'm certain it's going to be very high.
Jurinsky says there's more information about Andrews coming out soon. We don't know what his blood alcohol content level was when they pulled him over. Denver police investigating a homicide in the 100 block of South Vrain Street. Officers responded to a call of an unresponsive 2-year-old. The victim was pronounced deceased at the scene. 38-year-old Nicholas Stout is being held for investigation of first-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death. The investigation is ongoing. The Bills lose to the Broncos over the weekend, and reportedly Bills head coach Sean McDermott has been fired this morning. He won't get to enjoy the brand new stadium in Buffalo as they move to the new facility thanks to the Broncos and their victory. The Broncos play host to the Patriots this Sunday in the AFC Championship game, but in the win, they lose quarterback Bo Nix for the remainder of the season.
Not good news. On the second to last play in overtime, Bo fractured a bone in his right ankle. He's scheduled to have surgery Tuesday of this week, which will put him out for the rest of the season.
I feel terrible for him. Sunday at 1 o'clock, Mile High Stadium. Drake May and the Patriots in town. And Jarrett Stidham, he'll take over a quarterback for the Broncos. 4 starts in his career. Played in 20 games, never played in a playoff game. Can the coaching staff put him in the best situation to win? We shall see. Sam Ehlinger will be his backup. And you have a great defense behind them and the home field advantage, so you never know. Anything is possible. It's going to be extremely exciting coming up this weekend in downtown Denver. In the NFC, incredible game in Chicago. The Bears were down by a touchdown with 27 seconds to play. Caleb Williams ran the opposite direction, about 15 to 18 yards, to avoid the rush, and in desperation in the snow and cold, lofts one up to the end zone.
Joseph! Command in motion. Williams drifting, sprinting for space, in all kinds of trouble, putting it up for grabs in the end zone. Command! He got it! For the touchdown! They've done it again! Unbelievable!
So Bears fans going nuts. They tie the game. Defensive back totally misplayed it. He thought it'd be underthrown, and just he had to have felt terrible at that point.
I am so disappointed that we're not going to see the Super Bowl shuffle again.
You wanted to see the 2026 version of it, huh?
Yes.
Because it was so great in '85. That was a great team.
Turned McMahon into a star of some sort or another because of that. Yeah, and they don't have a fridge though. So what do you do? How do you do this Super Bowl shuffle without a fridge?
Yep. I have a lot of friends who are Bears fans. One in church yesterday. God bless them. He was wearing his Sweetness jersey yesterday, and oh man, I can't even imagine what they're thinking this morning because the Rams came back, and this is they took care of business, and it comes down to the field goal in overtime.
Good game. Mavis from 42 online, and it's good. And the Los Angeles Rams go to the championship game with an overtime win in Chicago. Good game.
Man, just never know. You never know what's going to happen. The Rams head to Seattle for the NFC Championship game. That should be an awesome game.
Now, Blake, you got to think that, as a Bears fan, and maybe you can ask your friends this, that after that absolutely ridiculous, kid on a playground play to end regulation to get the touchdown to move on, you almost at that point think this is ordained.
Right,
this is,
absolutely.
How could we not be able to come in? It's because you were just out of it, and right at the end, you tied it to go into overtime. How do you come to grips with the fact that then everything falls apart for him? Oh, it's got to be so hard.
Oh, it's meant to be a crazy play like that. Just we've never seen anything like that before, and then it just falls into his hands for the touchdown. It goes to overtime. It's meant to be for the Windy City. And
it's got to be. I know.
Yeah, man.
It's got to be so hard.
Well, Broncos fans have been through that before. A lot of teams have, including that Jacksonville victory in the late 90s, 97. That was the worst loss in Broncos history.
That was
without question.
That was that for me. I put that too. That's worse than the the Super Bowl.
That hurt more than any of them.
Yeah, because you weren't supposed to lose. Yeah.
Then it propelled them to 2 straight. It really did. It was like the silver lining was there. Oh man! All right, it's going to be an interesting week. Davos is going to be a big deal this week.
For the first time in 6 years, President Trump will attend the annual meeting of political and business elites in Davos. It comes as the president's move to acquire Greenland and impose new European tariffs has strained relationships among transatlantic partners. The White House says the president's speech on Wednesday will emphasize that the U.S. and Europe must leave behind economic stagnation and the policies that caused it. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And tensions are high once again in the streets of Minneapolis because the commies who are just nuts. And they're getting paid to act like fools in the street, create chaos in Minnesota cold. I'm sure you heard. Well, actually, you know what? Jeff and Billy are going to talk about this, so I'm not going to talk about that. It's just ridiculous.
People are texting in, try that in a mosque.
Right. Oh, man, exactly. Absolutely. That's so frightening. People here see these crazies coming in here. Of course they were frightened. You never know what's going to happen. Are you kidding me? They should have been shot right when they walked through the doors. Absolutely. All right, we have the national championship game tonight. Miami tries to knock off 15-0 Indiana. Miami, they are actually going for their 6th national championship. Should be fun. 17 in Arvada, 19 in Centennial, 19 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Billy. It is a Monday morning. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
There will be some areas of light snow showers and flurries early in the day. Otherwise, partly cloudy. Highs will be upper 30s. Clear tonight. Lows low to mid-20s. Sunny to partly sunny and warmer. Low to mid-50s Tuesday. Lower 50s Wednesday. Highs will be in the 40s Thursday. Nights will be mostly in the 20s. Changing weather, though. We're going to see an Arctic front push in for much colder temperatures heading on into Friday and Saturday. Maybe some chances of light snow as well. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, leftists stormed a church in Minneapolis over the weekend. Don Lemon was with them. Here's a second part of Don Lemon's. He live streamed the whole thing. In the middle of a church service, he and a whole bunch of leftist protesters stormed in and started shouting. And here's Lemon talking about it.
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt, to make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe when I say everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to make people uncomfortable in these times. If you see how uncomfortable people uncomfortably...
Well, that is a misreading in the Constitution. You can't storm private property under the banner of let's make people uncomfortable and then claim constitutional protections. Can't do it. You can go out on the sidewalk. You can stand outside the church. That's a protected activity. You cannot interrupt a church service and then claim constitutional protections of free speech under the banner of, well, we just have the right to make people uncomfortable. Nope. And in fact, these protesters violated the FACE Act. Now, as a pro-lifer, the FACE Act is like a four-letter word.
Yeah. Now, this is important because this is something that I got to share with the audience for a second here. Everybody guys that tune in, get your listening ears on, as they used to say in class. Focus up a little bit, because I had not considered this. And when Jeff walked in this morning and said, violate the FACE Act, I went, oh, crap. I hadn't even considered this angle or approach. And now, also backing up just to touch on what you said, 110%, you are right, because church is private property. Your right to peaceably assemble is in a public space. It does not cover walking into a private space. And for Don Lemon, who is talking a lot about the rights of free speech, to be so obviously wrong on that one is embarrassing for him. I don't know why we would listen to him on anything else that he's talking about their rights to be there or be uncomfortable or disrupt or free speech, when he is claiming you have the ability to do this on public property. No. People that dislike, and believe me, there's a lot of them here in the audience, that dislike me, they can't show up here at the radio station and get inside the radio station and start protesting us. No. They have to do it in public space. They wouldn't even be allowed technically to protest here in the hallways, because it's still a private space
the
inside of. Yeah.
You couldn't be in the parking lot.
Yeah. So that's the idea. They'd have to do that. So That's the issue, is Don Lemon, understand when you hear him and when you hear the reactions to this, he is pure D wrong about the idea of where, how, and when you can peaceably assemble. You can't do it on private property. But now my buddy Jeff here across the glass brings in the FACE Act, something I hadn't considered. Walk us through that, my friend.
Well, so the FACE Act was passed in 1994. And if you're in the pro-life community, when I saw this first mentioned yesterday, I was like, wait, what? Violation of the FACE Act? Because this is typically a four-letter word among pro-lifers, because Democrat administrations have arrested people for praying, for instance, outside of abortion clinics for violating the FACE Act, which is Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which protects access to reproductive health services and prohibits violence, threats, physical obstruction from people going into an abortion clinic, right?
Yeah.
And I think Democrats sometimes have overextended it to protesters outside of abortion clinics and even pastors praying, and arrested them for violating, quote, access to reproductive health services. But when this was passed in 1994, Republicans said, all right, if you're going to prevent people from doing that outside abortion clinics, we want houses of worship protected. So you cannot go inside a house of worship and threaten or physically obstruct people. You can't interfere with religious services, just like you can't interfere with reproductive services. So this was part of the negotiation back in Congress in 94. All right, you want those protections? Houses of worship want it as well. And what they did yesterday was clearly interrupting, obstructing religious services. This is why the DOJ is kicking off. But guys, I want you to hear this. This is from a guy that goes by the name Woke Farmer, okay? He walks up to a series of young women sitting in a church pew, okay? This is the Woke Farmer church protester yesterday.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No! Jesus would dine with immigrants. Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Hey, you can't.
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Where are you? You're sinners. You're pretending to be Christians. But we know you live an easy life, don't you? A very easy life while people are starving. Shame. Out now. Out now. Living real comfortable while the people starve. Living real comfortable while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're all living real comfortable, aren't you? Shame on you. Do something. Stand with the Somalis. Stand with the Latinos. Quit ignoring this injustice. He wears a suit and tie and he hangs out with Kristi Noem. How is that a Christian? You're supposed to accept all immigrants, are you not? Why are you not going down to Whipple and joining us in protest against this inhumanity? You claim to be a Christian, act like one.
That's Woke Farmer. I spent a little time yesterday digging into Woke Farmer. He's got a whole GoFundMe, 40,000 he's raised there. He kind of travels around the country doing this.
I just got a question, though. Why so angry? He seems very upset about a lot of things.
Well, he feels like he's stopping a Holocaust.
Very angry, though.
And he follows National Guard members around in D.C., for instance, and does this, has been arrested a number of times. And he's wrong about the scripture that we just have to accept all immigrants. The scripture is very clear. You need to be kind to immigrants, 100%. And you're not to be bigoted, mean to people just because they're here immigrants. But the idea that you have to accept all immigrants, like he said, that's not true. There's plenty of borders all throughout the Bible. Borders are fine. But that's where he goes. And then there's a lot of comments out there that he's just doing what Jesus did. He's just flipping tables, man. He just went in to the synagogue and flipping tables, just like Jesus Christ did. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that as well. Jesus was responding first and foremost to the scam that was taking place in the temple at the time of essentially buying your salvation.
Yeah, it was the idea that, hey, and Catholics love this, the whole indulgences idea, but, it was the idea that the church had been turned into a marketplace at the beginning and not a house of worship. So if Don Lemon and his protesters showed up, and how I hopefully that some of the audience has had this experience recently where you get off the plane in a different city and you have to walk through the airport, and all of a sudden the first steps of the airport is like a mini mall. And you're like, the hell here? All of a sudden they're running you through the commerce section first. So if he had to show up to church and he had to pass by the Starbucks and the McDonald's and the tchotchke office where they're selling, little like bobblehead Jesuses and stuff like that, then maybe he's got an idea about the idea, or maybe the people critiquing him has that idea of what was going on with Jesus and overturning the money changers. But that's the issue, is because the temple was turning into a place of commerce, not a place of worship. That's the core. And that's not what the complaint is here.
I think there are oftentimes fair critiques of churches that become that way. And there's guys that go undercover into what would be called the wealth.
Yeah.
The prosperity gospel. Right,
That's a lot of fun.
Prosperity gospel. And when you go and see them, it's a constant. If you give more money, you'll get more prayers, and
with more prayers, you get more money.
So and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And look, I think there's a role for people that want to critique that. And I've seen underground or undercover videos of those types of things. Fair critique. But look, this guy is not walking into the church in an effort to better it. He is a charlatan who goes around and does this stuff. He harasses soldiers. He harasses National Guardsmen. And in this case, he goes up to a group of 15-year-old girls. This is right at the beginning. 15-year-old girls sitting in church. Imagine you're a dad, and this guy, he looks like a homeless man, walks up and starts doing this.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No! Jesus would dine with immigrants. Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's Christ's language there. So if there's guys out there acting like Jesus and that says, touch me again and see what happens.
Yeah.
Not so much.
And I love the assuredness and the self-righteousness that he has in that entire exchange where he feels it's okay in and I wouldn't say yelling, but in a very raised, aggressive voice to confront people and get in their faces and say things. But the one thing we can't do is touch you. That everything else you're doing, we need to perfectly understand and give you all the space and grace that you need to be mad at us, but we can't do anything else. And no one there was trying to assault him or hurt him. They were trying to escort him out. And the other part for me is, I'm sorry, but when I see someone like this guy is calling himself the woke farmer, when you go and you start approaching people under the age of 18 and you're confronting them and you're getting in their face, you're a bully. You're not talking to the adults in the room. You're there and you're there specifically to create fear. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If he is so mad about what's going on with kids in concentration camps, then why is he going in to traumatize the kids as well? I understand he's like, well, I'm just giving them a dose of their medicine. It doesn't mean you're better. It doesn't mean you're showing a good example. If you're willing to do the same thing that is happening right now to other people, then why are you complaining about the people doing it? If you're willing in some ways to basically participate in the same behavior, then why are you critiquing those individuals that are doing it already? If you're able to do it yourself in order to make a point.
I think it completely backfires on the entire movement.
Absolutely
and I raise this too because over the weekend, and today's Martin Luther King Day, over the weekend, CBS Sunday Morning News did a thing on the counter sit-ins at the Woolworth.
Yeah.
Down, I think, in Mississippi, Alabama.
I don't remember,
one of those states. But they weren't allowed to, blacks weren't allowed to sit at the same lunch counter as whites. And so teenagers, organized by the NAACP, did a sit-in. And it was nonviolent and it was peaceful. And then CBS went on to go and show that the rise and advent of television at the same time showcasing this sent a very strong, powerful message with regards to nonviolent activism and how it changed people's minds about the whole issue and was powerful. So you can contrast nonviolent sit-ins and what was achieved by Martin Luther King with these folks that just walk in, bully, harass, intimidate high schoolers sitting in a church pew, and it's a complete backfire. In fact, people are texting in, this is what's getting Trump's attention. This might be the catalyst that sends the National Guard in now to try to deal with this because, It is. It's an act of bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Well, let's go to the phone lines. Mary, Wyoming. Good morning, Mary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hi, good morning. After listening to your narrative, my question was going to be, what does the woke want? How do they want the ICE to be able to arrest these criminals? Since between the justice system, they can't go into the jails, and with the activist judges, once they get them and they can't deport them. So in other words, what do they want? And then I realized what my answer is. So listening to your narrative, I'm going to change that and ask, why doesn't Trump he up his game? Like a good example was like go to a John Walsh kind of thing, have a most wanted, or use the media, use TV, have a most wanted, put a price on these criminals in that area, and let the public and say, if you see these, also have a victim story, you know what I mean, that they would present on what these criminals have done to their families. And then, like I said, but up the game, make the media, make them have to admit these are criminals that are trying to get off the street.
Look, Mary, I think they're trying to. If you follow them on social media, they're constantly posting pictures there. The mainstream media is not going to cover this because, as we've seen in that video exchange between Carolyn Levitt and the reporter, they're leftists. We know that in Colorado with Channel 9. They're leftist activists. You see it with Don Lemon. And even in another interview we don't have the audio for, one of the parishioners goes, I'm not going to talk to you. You're not a reasonable journalist. You're an activist. What the leftist media wants is activism. They want those people interrupting those churches. They love it. I mean, Don Lemon's a part of it, if not leading it. So they're not going to cover the actual criminals that ICE is picking up.
Yeah, I think
they could buy TV time and present that.
True.
They could have a weekly show.
Well, here's the thing.
And like I said,
it would be
most
good.
wanted.
Now, Mary,
Ace iTunes.
I think it could happen, again, if they were going after the most wanted criminals. And that's what the members of the people that walked into the church with Don Lemon are going to push back on. They're going to push back on the statistics that around 70 to 75% of those so far detained and arrested by ICE have no previous criminal conviction. And so as you were saying, we're going after the criminals, what these protesters are saying is, well, if you're going after the criminals, how come 3/4 of the people that are being arrested when we're going after the criminals have no previous or prior criminal conviction? How does that? I think that's going to be the problem if Trump leans into the idea that we're just going after the criminals. So far, the arrest statistics don't bear that out.
Because also, I think that you said it took about the criminal record. What about just somebody who was scheduled to be deported in 2015, and they've been using all our services and stealing the money and the benefits, etc.? That to me is a criminal.
Here's the thing, though. Part of it, though, is you see, again, you're starting with the conclusion and somewhat working backwards. You're assuming that someone was supposed to be deported in 2015, and the only way they've stayed here is through social services. Where if
not
a person,
just the only way, they've been using it.
But
they
again,
have been.
Hang on a sec, though. Now, if you want to talk about someone in that situation, but not everybody that's been picked up and detained by ICE sits in that category. And again, that's where the protesters give their voice, and that's what they're arguing about. If you want to talk to someone, and again, there would be people that would disagree with you on the fact that what services should be available or not available. But again, that might not necessarily rise to the level of a criminal conviction. You and I and Jeff and the audience can disagree about that, but it wouldn't be a crime. And so if we're going after the criminals, that I think is the problem these people that are protesting the ICE actions are having, that they're not seeing the arrests of the criminal.
I disagree. I think they're open border leftists because there's videos out there of ICE agents going, we're trying to capture somebody that sexually assaults children. Please let us do our jobs. And they still follow them around and blow their whistles. Mary, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. We got phone lines hot this morning. Mary's line will be open. Feel free to give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Text messages really hot on this. ILJ texting in. That person who went into the church and yelled at those people being righteous white hypocrites who don't see the plight of others, 100% wrong. Most churches are filled with sinners trying to find the truth. And most churches give tons of money to all kinds of organizations to help people. These people are totally misled. They make judgments without even going into the church or even reading the Bible. Just this week, I was in tears with the pastor because a man came in who was totally broken and had been doing drugs, who had messed up childhood, was trying to find the truth. Yeah, that's what most churches are. They're hospitals for broken sinners trying to find the truth. And those folks, they don't go to church regularly. They don't read their Bible regularly. They're self-righteous jerks who walk into church services and interrupt and shout down 15-year-old girls in the middle of a pew. It was disgusting. All right, let's talk gyries. Folks, my wife and I have been talking about updating our home for a while. We took the first step, got to talk with gyries. They came in, did a wonderful job with Hunter Douglas shades for us. We're going back again for a second part of our house. Gyries all over the Denver metro area. We went to the one in Parker, sat down with their professional designer who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. They walked us through everything and helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyries has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. But here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They come directly to you, so you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit Gyries.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Gyries. You'll be sure to thank me. Jam-packed phone lines. Text messages hot. We are debating and discussing the leftist protesters that stormed a church in Minnesota yesterday. Is it effective? Is it equivalent to Jesus flipping over the tables on behalf of righteousness? Or is it a distraction from their cause? Is it actually going to harm them as they shouted down, bullied, intimidated, and harassed young people in a church? We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Protesters, including Don Lemon, storm a church in Minnesota, interrupting church service. Right at it. And here's the thing. If you're not a regular church goer, the importance of a church service for Christians is it's a time of repentance of your sin. But we as Christians see it as if you remember, the Jews understood sacrifice and the offering and the idea of incense and worship and taking time to honor God is pleasing to God. So when you sing, when you worship the Lord, it's a form of incense, essentially. It's like it's something that God delights in when you worship him. So even when you sing with a really crummy voice like I do, and your heart goes out to the Lord, it's a form of blessing to the Lord. And so these protesters took that sacred time, went in there and yelled and screamed and bullied, harassed, and intimidated even young people to try to win their political achievements, whatever it might be. Well, I think it's backfiring bigly. Let's go to the phone lines. Gary and Thornton. Good morning, Gary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hi, Jeff and Bill. Hey, I was just calling to tell you about Dred Scott versus Sanford. The Supreme Court already ruled that they couldn't sue for their freedom because they're not American citizens. And that was in like 1854, I think.
Yeah. I think the Constitution, though, does grant people that aren't American citizens some basic rights. So that'd be, the due process and things like that. But, I'm curious about you, Gary, like this idea of the protesters wandering into a church. On first blush, what do you feel about that, just emotionally and also, rationally? Is this a step too far? Is this an appropriate way to make other people feel uncomfortable? Was Don Lemon right that they're just, making sure that everyone feels uncomfortable? Or is this something that is a step too far for you? What do you think?
It's a step too far because the church didn't have where people could sit and not could sit because of their color. It's just a step too far. And I think President Trump should make the same mistake that Rutherford B. Hayes did when he took federal troops out of the Confederate states that didn't want to abide by the federal law of the land. So, man, we're in a mess, but
interesting.
All the information's out there, and no one wants to really look at it and talk about it.
Well, thanks, Gary. Appreciate the phone call, man.
Perspective. Gary's line is open at 303-696-1971. Let's talk Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis, the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. All right, Barney, you're going to be up next. We're talking the progressive leftists. They typically hate the church unless they can run in and bully and intimidate you in it. We'll talk more about this. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Protesters, including Don Lemon, storm a church in Minneapolis over the weekend. Here's some of the audio from that.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No! Jesus would dine with immigrants. Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Hey, you can't. Don't
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on...
That was directed to a group of about 5 or 6 15-year-old girls. Congratulations. If you're wondering if you're a total sleazeball in life, you've discovered it. That was the woke farmer intimidating a young group of girls. Don't think he gets away with that in a mosque, in a synagogue, or even in a Southern Baptist church.
Yeah, it was...
Some rowdy Catholics would probably put him on his back, too.
I don't know. We can be somewhat complacent.
Jesus didn't wear a clerical collar either, Bill.
Yeah. The thing for me is that the idea of him wearing a suit, I'm like, yeah, also at the time, didn't have indoor plumbing.
Or
not really
shoes with laces.
I mean, there's a lot of things that, the guy yelling at you, you're like, that's a really bad, it's such, I love when that happens because that is just such a bad example. It is such a bad example until you are, doing and living your life as Jesus did, then shut up. And that includes the clothes on your body. Just shut up. Stop it.
Let's go to the phone line. Barney, Denver. Good morning, Barney. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning. Happy Monday.
Morning, Jeff and Bill. Jeff, I'd really like to see that bar fight between Billy Thorpe and Mary, the caller. I think that'd be awesome. I love her calls.
We could do it for charity, and she'd kick my ass. I'm telling you, she would kick my ass.
It would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun.
Yes, it would.
And there's a guy that he kind of reminds me of you, Bill. He's on Instagram, and he's talking about these protesters. And you can tell, I don't know if this guy was back from the day of Martin Luther King. I don't think he's that old. But this guy's told these people, you guys got to knock it off. Like, there's a line. When you protest, once the cops get there, shut your mouth, lock me up. And it's a great example. But let's go. Wait a minute. One other thing about the Broncos, we're going to see what kind of coach Sean Payton is. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to go out on a limb. Frank Crum, 100 yards in the championship game. Let's just go with that, okay? I know that's bogus, but it doesn't matter.
Dude, he's got speed. He's got just sub 5-second 40 time, coming out of combine. So yeah, it could happen.
He hit that guy, and he stumbled. That's like running into a D9 bulldozer. Like, it was awesome. And by the way, Josh Allen, you will never make it to the Super Bowl. You can cry at the end of your career, but you don't cry because you lose a game. You, buddy, you will never make it to the Super Bowl. End of story. Now, let's talk about Billy and his misguided, he actually sounded like he's pretty reasonable about the church thing. The guy yelling at the church, buddy, I will guarantee you if Jesus was there, Jesus would punch you in the head and knock you out. Period. End of story. And you brought up Southern Baptist Church, Bill or Jeff. I guarantee you there's churches in Colorado. You do that, you are going to get the crap kicked out of you. End of story. Same as the South. Same as North Carolina. Believe you me, North Carolina, that would not fly. And, Bill, you got to admit, you know what? We could just wait for the 26 midterms because this is just campaign fodder for the Republicans. And, by the way, who is he talking about? The Somalis that have committed billion-dollar fraud with the Tim Walz government? I mean, no. Look, you guys are on the wrong side of history on this one. You don't get to beat up cops just because you like them. And I am calling ICE agents cops because they are law enforcement. They have the same, whatever the heck you want to call it, do whatever they want, as the city of Minneapolis cop, the city of Minneapolis does cop, or the state trooper of Minnesota. You can't do this, and these people are going to pay a huge price, buddy.
Barney, do you think at this point Trump escalates? Do you think this becomes what finally is going to kick it off for him to bring in the troops?
Yeah. And then there was a bald-headed skinhead with tattoos on his face, comes out and tells everybody, oh, we have the castle dropped, and you can shoot an ICE agent when he kicks down your door. Are you kidding me? Don't take and it's not going to be pretty. And we can sit here and whine about it all we want. God almighty, and even that Minneapolis police chief, go home when it gets like this. Get the hell out of there and go home. And they won't, because there haven't been enough of them that have gotten the crap kicked out of them, because most people don't have the stomach for that. Some people like me kind of like it. I'm kind of sick in the head when I get punched and I get knocked out and wake up. But
Barney,
most people do not have the stomach for it.
I could only imagine.
I
could only imagine what a radio show with Barney and Danielle Jurinsky would be like.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be so fun.
Yes. Let's get a coffee
Barney,
sponsor.
you're awesome.
Appreciate you, Barney. You're the best.
Always appreciate it. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We'll be right back. This is Denver's Talk Leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS.